Yes, it is true. I am selling off some of my game collection. Actually, I already have to a degree, so there's not much left to even sell. So I'm not. This is not a video trying to solicit buyers here. Just more of a casual conversation. The TLDR, if you don't want to watch me blabber for the next 10 something minutes, because it's meant to be a casual conversation. The TLDR is that I'm trimming fat. You know, being more principled on what I want out of this hobby. And it just got to the point where a lot of things didn't really make sense. If you've kept up with the collection updates, where that too is a 10 to 20 minute blabber fest of me showing you all the things that I bought lately to go into the library. Though, like, there's been a handful of times where it comes up, and I'm like, I don't really care for big box collector's editions, or on LTPS whenever Sony does a new special limited edition DualSense, and it's like, that design looks cool or not cool, or whatever the case is. Even when they look really nice, it's like, oh, cool. I'm just not really, like, I don't care to buy extra controllers anymore, because you can only ever use one at a time, typically. Even in the best case scenario of having 2, 3, 4 players, local couch co-op, which is very uncommon nowadays, you're still only using 4 controllers at a time, and I would argue that is probably very seldom, depending on your own habits. But point being, I'm one person, I can only use 1 controller at a time, so it's things like that, right? I've definitely brought those things up before, and that kind of permeates back to what I already have in the collection, so, and especially like the big box collector's editions, even deluxe editions, like a long time ago, I stopped buying those because they can be just so large and unwieldy. And so the handful of ones that I did have, those I started getting rid of. Things like the, I had the God of War Stonemason edition, the 2018 one. That's such a big box. The statue is really cool. Like, I think that stuff's really neat, but it just takes up so much room. Same for the Uncharted 4 Libertalia edition. It just doesn't really work out for me. I've still got a handful of ones that I bought from the PS3 days, and those I still love dearly, and so, like, I want to hang on to those. And they're not as obnoxious as far as their size, like the Resistance 2 one, the Warhawk one. These are things I still want to hold on to. The statues are smaller too. I like my little plush sack boys. Like, I can't, there's a part of me that still wants to keep that stuff for much longer than what I'm willing to part with now, and maybe that's just more of the generational, well, I say generational, but in my generation, during that platform cycle, PS3, it's something I'm so nostalgic for. Maybe I'm a little bit okay with letting go of things that were, being sold during the more recent PS4 days, but I don't know, I digress on that. It's just that unless I really, really like a game, I do not buy those bigger editions. I will say in recent years, the ones that are not nearly as unwieldy, like the deluxe editions for Final Fantasy XVI, Rebirth, even The Last of Us Part 2 Remastered, the WLF edition, that actually is kind of big, and also that bigger edition for Baldur's Gate 3. That thing is actually pretty large as well, but I think at the time that was the only edition they were selling, but either way, like, those are the ones I definitely did buy. They do take up room. Actually, Coffee Talk. That's it. A game I really, really love. And so they sold a really big, ridiculous box that we opened for 30 Platinums Part 3. I still have those, if only because to sell that off, I'd have to do everything complete again. And I kind of want the cool coffee cup and everything. But I also can't get rid of the box. I can't just destroy it. It has to be retained just in case. I don't know. It is a cool display piece. But, like, that's the thing, too, is that typically these items are display pieces and they've been displayed for a reasonable amount of time, but I have to think about my own situation here, which is I've got 4 of those shelves back there. This is a decent sized room and it's already sort of full. And I use quotations there because the thing I'm like aiming to do with that shelf is over time remove the lower boxes and knickknacks and things like that, and then it's purely just like a row of games. Nothing but where it's just all spines of video games. And that's slowly been happening faster and faster. So it's also like, ooh, I have to be a little bit mindful of where that's going to go in the next 1, 2, 3 years, because it probably is going to get filled up pretty soon at some point. But anyway, it's the collector's editions that I previously had. I got rid of some of those. And then the controllers too, right? Like, I can only use 1 controller at a time, so I had a lot of the first editions of, or rather the first round of DualSense colors that Sony had put out, and I've had those for how long now? I got rid of all those because, quite frankly, one, the colors are nice, but it's just they're standard DualSense controllers. When the Edge came out, it's like, that's a $200 premium controller. I'm never going to not use that. And then the extra little splurge was the 30th anniversary edition DualSense Edge as well. And it's like, okay, well, there's definitely a novelty, a very rare celebratory novelty of getting those controllers. So I do have one of the standard and one of the Edge, and I made this point clear when I bought that 30th anniversary Edge. It's like, no, I'm using this thing. That's the other aspect of it too. I think a lot of us in this hobby, we see shiny thing, we buy shiny thing, we want it to stay shiny thing, and maybe for some that in your head you're thinking, well, I want it to stay shiny because I do plan on getting rid of it down the road, and I want the value because it will be in nice condition. And more power to you. That's what I love about physical ownership. That's what I always advocate for. Don't even mind the fact of, and this gets more into games, but don't even, get around the fact of it's a single online storefront with digital goods, mind you, and you have to wait for the publisher to give you a sale. Retail, you have various options of those retailers fighting for your dollar. Excuse that part. I still also really love the fact that you can sell an item to somebody, maybe even give it away for free, but you get some sort of intrinsic value out of it. And nowadays, with how expensive everything is, I think that's more and more important of when you spend, when you're ready to part, you get something back, right? So I get that aspect of keeping shiny thing and keeping it nice and clean when you're working up to the day of when you're going to offload it. Totally get that. But for me, I think it only made sense of like the handful of times that I'm going to get something like a controller. So an accessory, I think I want to not have that be just a shelf piece, right? And display it front facing. It looks good. For me, that's not really the value I want out of it in the here and now. So controllers, I'm pretty much never buying those. I have plenty of them, and I still have a handful in case I have up to 4 players within the same room, or obviously swapping around with different batteries or having backups. But for the most part, I'm good with what I have, which is one standard Edge, one 30th anniversary Edge. So it's the controllers I'm offloading as well, or I pretty much have downsized and offloaded all of that, excuse me. Consoles is also another thing. We all know I have a ridiculous amount of PlayStation 3s, so those have been slowly getting moved as well. I will say, for games. So that's the other thing too, right? Oh, so you're getting rid of accessories, you're getting rid of the big box collector's editions, you're not actually selling games. That's not true. I am getting rid of games, but this I am super picky on. It really fell down to Switch and Xbox stuff. Because, like, it goes without saying, but I play a lot of third-party games on PlayStation. And I don't do crazy buying on Switch. It's here and there, haphazardly, so I don't really have a big Switch collection, but I will admit, like, I got rid of a lot of third-party Switch stuff. Because oftentimes, I would already have the game on PlayStation as well, and I don't know, my methodology throughout the Switch generation was sometimes games feel more at home on Nintendo, or sometimes I want to play them portably. And that's the big caveat with Switch, is that I primarily play that machine handheld only. So it was always appealing, but like in my sick head, it's like, oh, well, maybe I'll want to play this handheld someday, and I still want my game with trophies on the big screen on PlayStation. And I don't know, it got to the point where I was like, this seems a little too silly even for me, and that, I think it's fine to just part ways with one half of these, and I'll keep the PlayStation side because that's primarily what I collect for in bulk. That's the big thing in the background. And that permeated to some Xbox stuff as well, so it's like there's really just no need to have some of these things unless I need a small selection of games that I might need to record for, but I seldom record on other platforms. So it just didn't really make sense. So I got rid of a lot of third-party Switch games, and now it's mostly PlayStation. And also, a roundabout way in my head, I pray that Sony will allow some way for this local play handheld that will come out in 2027 to potentially launch disc games. And I don't mean like you load a disc into the handheld, but I don't know, there's a part of me that's hoping it'll be similar to the PlayStation mobile app where, just like when it's internet tied, you are allowed to remote play and launch a disc game. So I'm just like, maybe there's no technical reason why they couldn't at least validate discs inserted into a home console that is set as the primary machine, which will then validate launching the application on the handheld, because I don't think the handheld is going to have any physical media. So it will be primarily a digital device. But I'm just thinking, like, if they allow something like that, then that also means I can probably have those games portably, but that's more of my pie in the sky idea where I hope they do that. But either way, it started to not make much sense to double up on stuff like that. And I've had doubles before that I'm starting to get rid of those too. So that's kind of where all this is going. It just made more sense to trim down the collection by way of that. Be very picky with controllers unless I'm going to play with them. Very picky with collector's editions unless I really like them and they're not too oversized. But that's sort of where we are. The collection does still grow at a rapid pace. It's just... but I definitely have sold things, and I could not have said that even just a few years ago. I mean, pretty much anything that came into my ownership, I held on to. I was very, very stringent on not selling things, but I have finally peeled off that Band-Aid, and it's felt pretty good to have some cash back in the pocket and be able to reallocate it to just other portions of the collection. It's a vicious cycle. We're just moving money around and it still kind of goes in the same place. But in today's environment where things are just so expensive, and I think a lot of folks are in that same headspace, I'm curious where a lot of you are as well, so by all means let me know. But anyway, that's about it. Thank you so much for joining me in this conversation, and I will see you all in my next video. You take it easy.